It's been a long time coming, but earlier this week, we finally started our Great One grind here on Rancho, and I actually said during that stream that I didn't think we'd get to do any videos on it for a while, because I'm pretty sure by the time this video comes out, I'll be down in Georgia, but I miscalculated how many videos I had to do, and realized that I had space for one more, and having that opportunity, I thought we'd get out here and work on the grind. So I am about 130 kills in. When Kyla was here 2 different times, she shot, I'm going to estimate, about 150 deer, so let's call it like 250 total into this grind. And I am nowhere near fully understanding what we need to do, so a lot of this is going to be a learning process, but I want to just keep on shooting bucks and getting respawns as we go. Who knows, this might be quick, this might take thousands and thousands of kills, so every single one counts. And when I say that things are going to be a learning process, a big part of it is just like where we need to actually take our shots from and just how to sort of optimize our time, because when we shoot these deer, it may only be, I don't know, 175 meter shots, something like that, but we have to run forever to go and claim those. Now, I do have a tent over in that area to kind of help us along, but there's another drink zone up here, I think for Whitetail as well. It's showing Bobcat, but I'm pretty sure there are others around, and it's just kind of that kind of thing. Figuring out what zones tend to have bucks and where we can spawn to get them all taken out as quickly as possible. And like I said, that's just going to take us a while to sort of figure out. And yeah, I mean, there's one buck over there. I think I see something else moving around back there in the brush. It's so hard to tell, like, if that was a whitetail. It could have been a bobcat as well. So maybe we'll take this one for now. And then kind of going forward, we can maybe learn. I just realized there was another buck standing there, and actually multiple deer ran off. I think we should have gotten a lung hit. That was quite lucky, but I think we did okay. So this one dropped, and then I'm not actually even sure where that other one was standing. Somewhere over in this general vicinity. I can see the body down. I never did see any blood, but I'm kind of looking across from where we were. There may be a spot that will allow us to kind of shoot both herds and make it work that way, and that's what a lot of Great One grinding is about. Like, having tent and tripod placement where you can potentially get multiple zones from one spot, because that really saves a bunch of time in the long run. I mean, we can clearly see all the way over into there, so that might be a good spot for tent placement down the road. I can't actually go and place one right now to try because we have the max number placed, so it'll be something to experiment with, but even just kind of finding those spots as we go along can be pretty helpful, I think. Kind of learning on the fly here. I hadn't figured out a way to get these bucks yet, because I've been fast traveling over to the tent that's pretty close to us, but it might be best to just kind of run from our last tent. So let's try to get those guys taken out. I thought that second one was going to take off, but he actually didn't. I've got a tent just on kind of the far side of all these deer, and I don't know if there's a way to get both herds without spooking, like, the second one, but maybe there's something to starting from over on this side. But for now, 2 more bucks down. I thought that might have been Spinal Cord when we took that shot, but at least he dropped and saved us the tracking. And, I mean, we'll try fast travel into this tent and see if maybe any of those deer are around to let us get a shot off. Even still, though, we kind of found a little bit of something. I do hear one deer running at us. Just a doe, but we'll stay ready. I guess they kind of got through before we got here, but we can try to get a neck shot like that. I'm pretty pleased with the fact that we even got it. Going 2 for 2 might have been a bit too much to ask, but quick follow-up will put him down, and then we're not going to be too far out of the way to get back here and continue. But I mean, that definitely was not a bad deal. In fact, right on the gold requirement, so a good one to hit that neck shot on, because I know the second one we shot wasn't quite that big. He's kind of just one of those little basket rack bucks. 172, and we were fairly close, so a bit too far to the right to get the neck, but then that intestine hit definitely helped bring him down a lot quicker. Now, there's almost definitely a better way, but this is pretty much what I've been doing for the last zone as of now, just kind of 350 meter shots all the way across here, and there's 2 different herds, so even getting all of them can be a little tough. That was a heck of a drop that guy had. And then the other 2 are right over here, so not good angles in the slightest. I think it's going to be tough to get a lung on the second one especially. That's a hard shot. Just didn't quite have the breath I wanted to line up the heart on the second, but maybe lungs. He's not going down. So that might be one that we got to go and track a while. Yeah, we hit him again. That'll help our cause for sure. That actually might have been a bit of a mistake. It kind of depends. And, you know, we were kind of good for a lung shot there, just didn't quite reach in to get it. But regardless, that was 4 deer in one spot. And I thought they were a little further apart, but like I said, that's not been the ideal setup anyway, so maybe deleting that zone is going to help us in the long run. And because we've been running around a little bit extra, I think we need to really kind of push it to get to all the spots I wanted to get. 354 meter hard shot's not a bad deal, and a gold yet again just barely. Then this guy dropped as well, just double lung at 359 meters. And by the way, for anybody that's not aware, the reason the spotting info is stuck on the right side of the screen there is that last buck that we shot, the one that technically we shouldn't have, our 4th one, he ran out of our render while we still had him spotted. And basically, until we spot something else, that's going to stay there and pretty much be stuck on the screen. Now, I tend to think that between this lake in Bosque Alto and the La Hacienda lake, this one takes a bit more time. And I'll generally go to the lakes that take less time last, because if you get right at the end of their drink time, I think that's easier to kind of work with. So we're going to start here and try to get through it as quickly as possible. But as you can see, there are just a ton of deer that kind of pile into this one area, and it makes it tough to even know where to start sometimes. So we'll try to pick one out to where we can get 2 or 3 of them. That back in there is a little bit bigger. I can't tell, I just had him spotted for like half a second. That is a level 3. 224 to 265. Now, I don't have a 22, so I can't actually alert them. We may have to treat this one a little bit different. I don't really have a better way of doing this other than kind of getting in close and calling, because there's no shot opportunity back there to that guy, and I'm not so sure I want to risk shooting the front one and dropping it and then making that follow-up. So let's get in here a little bit. It looks to me like we're kind of getting the herd broken up a little bit. So question is now, where did the level 3 get to? I think, now that's a big 2. There's a 3 right there, so that's going to be our guy. Maybe, if things kind of work out, we can get the level 2 as well. I had a feeling that maybe we could call the front ones away and the 3 would stay drinking, because diamonds tend to be a little tougher to call in. So, that'll drop him. Fortunately, just kind of end up spotting a doe. That's what happens for me in this spot so often, because it's just chaos with so many deer. I think we'll try to just take that guy as a 3rd buck, and then to avoid deleting zones, that's going to be it. And if I'm not mistaken, that's kind of the mid-size diamond rack, which I believe is a guarantee, and more importantly, is one that I've wanted for a real long time. It's been a diamond rack for Whitetail since Aurora, I believe, and we don't actually have one, so if that's what it is, that's a pretty cool first diamond of this grind. In fact, I'm pretty much certain that's what that is, so like I said, I think it is a guaranteed diamond, and at 259.6, lower score than I thought, we finally have the kind of mid-size diamond rack, and he's not even, immediately you can see, his right side G2 is longer, so that's kind of cool, and I'm not so sure what we'll do exactly yet, but I definitely want to display this one in the main lodge, just because it is a different rack, so we'll have to find a spot for him, maybe replace one of the old diamond whitetail, but in the meantime, like I said, we're already probably a little bit further behind than we should be. Now that is going to be a time killer. I guess we'll go and claim this other guy first. We got to go back to that tent, so it won't be a huge deal if he's there by the time we find this guy. We'll have to see, because I know they do really float quickly sometimes, but he must have just sort of like slowly fell into the water. By the way, got to 11 million cash at some time in the last couple of kills. In fact, it was probably a while ago because we just spent money to tax that diamond, but where is this guy? I think it's going to save the most time to just go and grab him now. Slowly but surely, and in whatever fashion that would be considered, floating his way over here. It was a vertebrae hit, so maybe he was just running around for that long. I guess there could be one other explanation, but we've got some deer over in there as well. That's going to be tough because that one's facing away, but we're going to get back in the tripod that we were supposed to start from and try to get those ones. And, you know, once again, this might be one to just kind of tweak the setup a little bit. We can place more tripods, unlike the tents from earlier, so quickly, let's get these shots off. Got both of them. And I might leave that tripod there instead of packing up and moving, because I'm not certain this kind of idea is going to work for the first herd. But if we just had a tripod there, it might be a little better. And I think that would be fine for shooting ones over here. But again, we're kind of running behind. I don't want to spend extra time just taking stuff down, so we'll leave that as is for the moment. But yet again, $2 down. I think probably 2 silvers, and that is the case. But in the end, it doesn't matter gold, silver, bronze, what we get out of most of these. It's the Great One medal we want to see for the end of this grind that counts. And for our last spot already at this lake, it looks like we have 2 more bucks that spawned in. Now, there were a couple of zones back there that were spawning bucks until this run, and that's some stuff I haven't really figured out yet, but a bunch of zones at this lake and this lake seem to be doe only, and quite honestly, I'm fine with that. The more that aren't spawning bucks in some of those kind of like difficult to get to areas, in my opinion, the better, because then we can focus all our time in the areas where we can be a little more efficient with our hunting. So I think we got the first. The second one, he must have, yeah, that wasn't actually a lung shot. It can be a little bit tough at the angle we had. And yeah, the same thing happened to the first one. We probably shot him in the vertebrae. Going down through into the heart and trying to stay high enough that we don't shoot under the vitals can be tough. So we'll have to track and lose a bit of the time saved by skipping some zones, but I think we're still just barely going to be okay. 1 down there, and luckily we have Rascal to kind of help us out with tracking. That should speed up the process of finding this other one. Not too bad. Only took us an extra minute or so to get over there, and yeah, it's just sort of, not even vertebrae, but between the lungs and above the heart, we just didn't penetrate in far enough. That above angle can kind of do that. Better actually praise Rascal before we go anywhere. And now we'll hop down to La Hacienda in this area. I've far from mastered it, but it is something else. So the way that this setup works is that there are a bunch of whitetail drink zones all around this lake, and we are essentially spawning in areas. That's a really wonky looking bug, but spawning in areas that are going to prevent certain ones from spawning in. And generally I'll start with deer that are over in that spot, but I don't see any at the moment. Sometimes they are kind of slow getting there, and because I don't see any, we are just super quickly gonna swing over and shoot this wonky fella, and hopefully the one that is with him. And this time, not shooting in between the lungs and missing the vitals. Now, as for those deer, I actually saw them at the beginning here. I was going to do this run and realized I hadn't set my loadout, so I'm not sure why they're not over there. They were literally here and I didn't cause any other pressure just about 45 minutes ago, so where they are now, I have no idea. But there's enough deer around the lake other than them that we can still get a ton of bucks even without them. But as I said, there are a bunch of deer around this lake, and the way that we kind of deal with that is the location we spawn. So these deer would have been there the entire time, but because we fast traveled to that tent and were within about 200 meters of them, they weren't visible and therefore can't spook from our shots until we get beyond that 200 meter range. And I don't see any huge ones. Maybe these 2 on the far right are going to be the best to go for, just because they're out away from the others. And then if we can, we'll take a third, and probably go no further than that, because the ones on the left won't have heard that. There is at least 1 other buck to get there. I think it's just the one. Actually, it is 2. That kind of looked like a doe, but we get him and that guy, which was close, but I thought okay. Might need to follow up on that if we can. Not the best, so that one may take a little bit of tracking. And you see this a lot at this lake, like does that are fleeing and then just stand still. I'm actually not so sure that we didn't mess up the first shot as well. But then, once again, we can kind of take advantage of that same thing. We were never more than 200 meters away from this buck until we got just a little further away and then came back here. There's a tent behind us that we can fast travel to and kind of achieve that. And it's just yet another deer we can get and yet another respawn. So, because none of these bucks were that big, and in fact I don't think there were any that were even gold, I don't know that we'll include the claiming process because there's going to be a lot of it. And then I think we'll get on to the last lake. We'll check the time real quick. It is 11:07, so we're going to be pushing it, but there's only 1 zone as far as I'm aware that spawns bucks, so maybe we can still get there. it does look like, unfortunately, we missed out on those ones, but we got to get everywhere else that I wanted to make it to in that super brief time frame. So I think we're going to go back to the Trophy Lodge then, and take a look at our first diamond of the Rancho Del Arroyo version of the Great One grind. And I decided to remove a diamond whitetail that's really only been in the lodge for almost like sentimental reasons. It was one of the 2 diamonds that we shot right before the Great One on the same day back in 2020, June 10th. And maybe as just a little bit of hope for this to mean something for an eventual Great One off a Rancho, we have our new guy, 259.6, up here beside the other one that we had still from the day we got the first Great One. So, like I said, fingers crossed that is a sign that we have another one somewhere down the road. But Rancho looks like it's going to be a lot of fun to grind on. I mean, I don't know how many kills we are exactly in. I'd have to look back and see how many we shot today. But we've made a bunch of kills in a pretty short period of time, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this grind brings us. But anyway, that is going to do it for this video. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.